Welcome to the Dear Entitled Radio Show with your hosts Nick Beardsley and Javi Mello.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Nick Beardsley, and this is my co-host Javi Mello, and you're listening to Dear Untitled Radio. Today, we're sitting down with the Switzerland-based project Dreamshade. Thrilled to coordinate this and get you guys on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
This is Fella and Gian. Very excited again. I can't say that enough. This is so much fun. So we were talking a little bit before recording started here, and I only found you guys in 2021 with your latest album, Pale Blue Dot, and I regret I didn't find you sooner. Honestly, that's why I had to reach out, bring you on, get you in. But you've been a band since 2006. So do you mind kind of introducing yourselves and giving a brief overview of just almost Dreamshade's journey?
Wow, how much time do you have?
Well, as much as you want.
So yeah, the project started when we were underage kids. Honestly, it was back in 2006. We were all going to school and just wanted to make music. We started a band even if we didn't know what that meant at all. So
nobody does.
Yeah, nobody really does, and especially in our geographic area, we had nobody to talk to about this because there weren't not many bands that were actually, going on tour or recording albums or signing deals or whatever in that area. So we just started with the instruments that we had, and we didn't actually play shows until 1 or 2 years after that, honestly. So we were just in somebody's garage playing riffs and recording with the first version of a MacBook that somebody lended us.
Yep.
Yeah. So
the good old days.
That's the beginning. Yeah.
Wow, you've come a long way since, which is incredible. That me being a newer fan, I didn't realize you had been established for so long, but that's phenomenal. And you have a great track record. Obviously recently you dropped the Grey Days Peace of Mind remix with Zardonic, following the Grey Days EP, and before that, a Pale Blue Dot in 2021. So you've been nothing short of busy, obviously, to this point as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta say that the pandemic kind of helped that part of being in a band, because we did really work harder in the studio, and we still have a lot of material that we want to work on. So maybe we did tour less in the last few years, of course, but the material is there, and I can't wait to work on new stuff. We're actually doing it right now.
Yes.
Are you currently in the recording process or just demoing stuff?
Just laying stuff down, recording some demos, and starting to build structures, and you just gotta have a selection of parts of songs that you feel like, okay, this means something, this other part doesn't mean anything. We scratch that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing right now.
Do you feel that maybe it's something you said earlier when you guys were like in the garage, making the music and starting out. Back in the days, like I was in bands in those times as well myself, and I didn't have any access to any form of pre-production or anything like that, right? And it wasn't until I did that our songs started to get better, right? Has it been like a super different, just like from writing, just like the way you guys used to write then until like from then till now? Has it been like super different? Does it feel more like organic or inorganic, or is still the same, just a different process? How's that been for you?
It changed a lot, but yeah, John wants to say something. Yes.
Yeah, I think it changed because nowadays we are more experienced on pre-production stuff. We are better on doing this, but honestly, we start since the very beginning on pre-produce our stuff. But this was not against the fact to, share time all together in the basement doing rehearsing, because we are that kind of band that has always rehearsed a lot, so spend a lot of time together, not in front of the computer, but in front of our instruments. And since the very beginning, we try to have the both world. So we all have our little home studio, as you can see. We spend many times beside screens and pre-production and programming synth and recording everything. But at the same time, we share a lot of time all together in the rehearsal room. So we always try to keep the both sides of the world. So yeah, what you can say is that now we are a little bit better on production, and this helps a lot, and also helps a lot our mixing engineer, the guys that works with us, because we went and we got them, or to one man actually, it's Jacob Benson, that's a great friend and our favorite producer ever, with as many elements as we can to let him, to help him on develop our sound together. So time goes by and we feel to be a little bit better every year. So it's a journey. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Every year,
I do agree.
Every year, every album, every release, something, at least a little piece. You can look back and say, "Oh, I did that," or "We did that," and improved. That's cool.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think just from from the writing standpoint, I think it's a great thing that you said that you've always also done pre-production and you spend more time in front of your instruments. I mean, definitely is not a dig on that, because I'm the other way around. I spend more time in front of my computer editing myself because I'm a terrible guitar player. But so what I mean is, though, it's really good because it gives you perspective when you're able to do your own pre-production. It gives you perspective on like the whole flow of the song, and if it's gonna if it's gonna seem like cohesive piece of music, or if it's too many things in one. I know often with the more riffier type of genres, the lines can get blurred, and sometimes if you don't hear it back, you're like, oh man, there's two songs in this one. You know what I mean? Like that it happens all the time. To me, at least, it happens an enormous amount.
That's true. That's true. Absolutely. And one thing that actually really changed from the very beginning to now is the amount of information that each song has. Because when we started, we didn't have a clue of what we were doing in terms of song structure. So we were like listening to all of these bands like Children of Bodom. They were so intricate, and we were like putting the most amount of riffs in one song because we wanted the song to change, 10 times. And
Right.
and we learned with time that that's not always the case. We can do some songs that are that, and that maybe even, especially when you have a singer that is not just screaming, and we learned that with time, it helps to have a better song structure and to have something memorable in the song that the listener that maybe is not a musician can grasp to. It's like you gotta have something to hold on to until the end of the song. Yep. Something that comes back, and we didn't used to do that in the first years, at least.
Happens to the best of us.
You were just flexing on everyone else. You're like, oh, look what we could play. Look at us.
Yeah. That's the world that we knew back in the day. Mm-hmm. That's the type of music that we were listening to.
Absolutely.
But we were musicians, and not everyone listening to us is a musician. So they might be into that kind of like proggier stuff or super different style riffs, but it's not always the case. And even for me as a listener, it's not always the case. So I'm really glad that we did that, and it exists, and it might come back, but I want to experiment more and even have easier songs sometimes.
Right. You mean when you listen to music, you don't want to constantly sit there and dissect?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm exercising with somebody else's music.
I just want to sit back and
sometimes I just
enjoy
want a cool song to listen to. Yeah.
So, I mean, that leads perfectly into what I was going to ask. I mean, you've explored such a variety. You've grown, as you just said. You know, you've evolved at how you write. Do you kind of consider yourselves to be a band who works to perfect that existing sound, or do you like? You know, I hate to bring the terminology of genre into this, but you know, it just happens across the even casual listeners and musicians. You know, so do you work on perfecting kind of what you were and getting better at that, or do you want to kind of push into, you know, branch into multiple avenues and stretch?
I believe we do both, because there are some elements of Dreamshade that are still there since the very first demo. It was back in 2007. It was never released, but it was, you know, a collection of songs that was there before the first EP. There is still a lot of that type of music, a lot of that, you know, band's identity in our music today, in every aspect of it, being that riffs, being that the type of keyboards or synths that we kind of write behind the song, the drumming, the style, the vocal rhythm come together. Some of that is always there, but we do experiment a lot. Like most of the songs in the recent years have come from totally different type of inspiration. So maybe I have a pop thing that I have in my computer, and I turn that into Dreamshade. So that's what I do the most, actually, before I present new riffs and new song parts to the band. It's like I'm just playing, you know, acoustic guitar, and I have something that I feel is kind of Dreamshady, and we can turn that into our kind of metal.
Will the real Dreamshade please stand up?
Yeah, absolutely.
You went there.
I did.
It's true, honestly. Sometimes when we experiment with stuff and we write songs together, and so sometimes we felt that we are going a little bit too far from what we think to the identity of Dreamshade should be. So, but it's very easy to come back upon someone else, because at the end, Fella especially has 10,000 guitar riff that sounds like Dreamshade, that are always ready to be taken, and sometimes it's just an element. It's something that can from far away remember us what really Dreamshades are, or what it's supposed to be in our mind. So, since nowadays, I think. In every song we can find something that's
something to draw from.
But maybe something very personal. I mean, I don't know if at the end, at the listener, it came the same feeling. I mean, hopefully, but who knows?
Well,
Right.
I would say as a listener, I got that from listening to your older stuff, to listening to the newest record, and everything in between. Once I started to do a deeper dive into Dreamshade, I started to realize that you guys have a sound, right? Whether it's, you know, whether it changes throughout the albums, not changes, but whether things get experimented with, at the end of the day, you guys have a sound. Mm-hmm. And I personally feel that the bands, at least that I enjoy the most, are bands that have a sound, right?
Me too.
They can write.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right? They can write 4 or 5 albums, and they can all have different elements and new things thrown in there, some even more current to keep up with, like, what's going on, or they're experimenting or whatever, but they're still themselves. They haven't, like, let's change genres completely, or let's just do stuff we've never done. You know what I mean? I don't know. For me as a listener, that's a hit or miss, and oftentimes it's a miss. It's a huge miss, because I still want to hear the band I fell in love with, right? Yeah. Even in a new record, I don't mind if they experiment and get crazier with things, or play a little safer. That's okay. That's all right. But at least the essence of the band is still there. And for me, like I was saying, just to full circle back, I enjoy bands that have a sound. That's that I get more value out of that from a consumer standpoint, at least. So.
Yeah, totally. To me, a sound is mostly the style of songwriting.
Right.
Like, take for example, like the huge bands like Linkin Park, like they never did the same thing twice in a row.
Yeah.
They still sound in every album like them.
Yeah.
Because there are elements in their songwriting that has always been there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Many other bands do that too, or not even bands, but in general artists do that. And if they are, and it's not because they're gonna be successful, but it's their identity. I'm sure that if you take Eminem and you let him do a black metal album, he will still sound like himself. I'm sure.
Very true.
That's a very hot take, but I agree because it will still be him.
Yeah, I'm sure that the notes that he's gonna use are gonna remember you is other stuff.
His old stuff.
Absolutely.
And before we jump up to the next question that I want to ask you, when it comes down to bands that are up and coming right now, just writing, doing their thing, and trying to, get to where Dreamshade might be right now, is there any advice when it comes to, obviously you've touched on it already on having your sound and all that, but is there anything that you could give them advice so that they can stick to that? Because, sometimes something new comes out and you're writing something here and then you feel pressure and then you're like, oh man, we have to get to this point and we have to just stop doing this and go this way. But that's never really the answer, I don't think, at least. Do you have anything that you can, advise them, like, I guess internally or mentally, how did you break through that wall so that you said, hey, no, we're still going to be Dreamshade and we're going to see how we're going to incorporate this into our sound, but we're still going to be Dreamshade? Anything like that you can give any advice to them?
What you just said reminded me of a moment in I guess, 2010. We were just recording our first full-length album, What's That Inside. We just had signed with Universal, so we didn't really know what was happening. But all of the bands that were our age or just a little bit older, and they were super successful, they were all from the States. They were all doing like the same kind of metalcore or deathcore. So everybody was moving into that trend of deathcore bands, and it was like, I don't know, thousands of bands that sounded very similar. And then, like in 5 or 6 years, it was half of those bands, and then after another 5 years, there is just the very successful ones.
Yeah.
So we never decided to jump on that trend back in the day, and we were really, really young, so we kind of felt that pressure to, let's start again from scratch and do something that is trendy right now. But that wasn't really what we didn't want to do that, because that wasn't the reason that we started the band. That wasn't the reason that we took so many years to find, the right type of songwriting or style that we wanted to record on the first record. Everybody was really successful back in the day with that, so we kind of felt like, okay, how do we make this more modern but still have our sign on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like that was our best choice ever, to really stick with what we had and maybe the other bands that were around us didn't have at the time. And again, I think it's just a matter of identity. And I'm sure that many of those bands have been super successful and even way more than us. But I'm really happy with the things that we released so far. So, I really hope, like, in 10 years, I'll look back at the catalog and I will be like, I'm really, really proud. I wouldn't make anything different from that.
Yeah,
right.
So
I agree.
That's the only suggestion I want to give, because otherwise, another suggestion could be never listen to another artist for their advice.
Well,
I don't know.
guess,
Don't even listen to this podcast. Just you know.
no, I mean, I guess, you know, remembering why you started the band in the first place and what the sound you worked so hard to get, why change
Yeah.
it, just perfect it, or, you know, or incorporate it everywhere else. No, and, you know, and that's me, myself as a producer, I encounter that a lot with bands when I start working with them, especially the newer guys and gals. You know, they just, one day they want to be this, another day they want to be that. And it's like, where's your identity? You need to find yourself somewhere in there, or else you just have nothing.
Absolutely, but that's actually is the hardest thing for every artist, I guess. It's not something that you just come up with.
Right.
You know,
Takes time.
it takes time, but still, like, time even changes you because you know, grow and discover new things. So you still have to kind of fight with yourself to keep to be focused on what you want to give the world to listen to.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing. I might be wrong. That's just my take on it. So,
No, I think it's a very good take, honestly. And you know, what better advice coming in from a band that, like you said, you can look back all the way to 2006, 7, and say, "Damn, that still sounds like Dreamshade." So,
Right.
you know what I mean? That's actually, it's a perfect advice from somebody who is actively doing it. So
Yes.
that's great.
And
Great take.
I really, you know, it really brings into light, you know, there's a lot of bands who are, obviously we have the whole, there's the mentality of, oh, I'm in it to make a lot of money and be popular. And everyone wants to jump on the virality and like the TikTok trendy, that type of thing. I love the example you gave. 2010, you had essentially scene core in its prime. Like everyone, you know, we all know someone who was in a band that did that style, you know, it was, but you guys, you know, it's weird because like at some time you must have felt like the world was kind of passing you by. And then a couple of years later, you're like, wait, we're back up. You know, we're back here, back on top.
Yeah.
And so that, I love that.
It really happened like that because I remember, you know, it was trendy. Metal was trendy again in 2008, 2010, when we really just started, when we really wanted to have a band, and it was just an idea to have a band. It wasn't popular.
Right.
Like, we were the only kids at school that were listening to this kind of music, and all the other guys were like, you know, doing, you know, the popular things.
Yeah.
So we felt, okay, this is our stuff. We can, you know, we can make it just for us and those few people that listen to this. So we didn't really care about the popularity, I guess.
Yeah.
It never really actually spoke about that. But then in a couple of years, it became trendy again, and I started seeing all the people that were in our little town that started listening to these trendy bands, and suddenly everybody had a band. They never played an instrument, but they all had bands. So, okay, that was the time that I felt like, okay, but these are just like tourists in here. They're just passing by.
You're a casual.
Because it's cool right now. And then 5 years down the road, nobody even listens to metal anymore.
Right. Well, I love that. So, if I may, I'd like to kind of tangent slightly. I was talking to one of my friends, and we were trying to think of, and forgive me if I have forgotten, but we were trying to think of metal artists that have come out of Switzerland. I mean, there's really not, you know, when you say it felt like you in the town, you're not necessarily wrong, right? I mean, am I missing like many big names in your home country?
There are a few.
Maybe Eluveti, probably. Eluveti. It's a folk metal band.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know how popular they are in the United States. Okay, because in Asia, in Europe, they are very famous actually.
Yeah.
We are good friends. Yeah, they are very very good Swiss metal band.
Okay.
Cool, yeah.
there are some
Old school
historical
bands.
band like Celtic Frost. Celtic Frost
right.
is a band from Switzerland.
Yeah.
I know
It's a
that.
piece of the black metal scene, actually. So they
Yeah.
are.
Okay, so there's
Maybe-
roots.
There's some roots there.
Yeah. You know, Switzerland is a very small country. We are now 8 billion people. So
Right.
and and
Our
the funny
cities in
thing
the
is,
States are bigger now.
yeah, but you know what? And Dreamshade came from the southern part that is geographically separated from Alps to the rest of the Switzerland, and we speak Italian when the rest of the Switzerland speak German and French. So that's why when Fella says we were the only kids in town, it's really true. I mean, because it's a very small place that we came from. So, but it's something that at the end we are also proud about it. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
You can just name few Swiss bands, in the metal scene. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
I forgot someone, Fella. They are not metal, but Gotthard is one of the biggest hard rock band we can name. Gotthard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were so popular in the United States, especially in the 90s.
I think I know who
actually,
they are.
their career starts from United States. They start to be popular in United States, actually. But it's not metal, it's hard rock and rock.
Right.
How do you pronounce that? Gotthard? Because here it's Gotthard.
Yeah. It's Gotthard.
Oh, there you go. Gotthard.
Gotthard, it's the name of the mountain that separates the Swiss-Italian part from the rest of the Switzerland.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Here I am. My head's somewhere else. Okay. Just because of how it's spelled. I'm sorry.
And he's also joking in English, of course.
Yeah. That's exactly why.
Yeah. Of course, it's the same. Yeah.
Thanks, Avi. Thank you.
A coincidence.
Here all day.
No, you're right.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, so basically we live in a town of 60,000 people. It's not like it's nothing.
Right.
And like John said, we're linguistically and culturally separated from the rest of the country. So we always felt, and south of us is Italy, that doesn't really have a big metal scene.
Right.
Even if they are way bigger than us. But we were never as Italian as them, and we were never as Swiss as the northern part of Switzerland. So we never felt like we represented
Either.
scene. Yeah. So it's been really hard. It's been really hard to get out of the place and sign deals and release records and tour. It was the hardest. That's why it took so long for us to start, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. But that's still, that's a feat in and of itself, right there.
Yeah.
Because you signed to Universal, like that's a major, right? You went right to a major. Where most bands, even in the States, they start out the same way. They don't get signed to majors. They go to indie labels, That's an impressive feat. I think that's, I would attest that, I guess that's the word, to hard work, really good music, and just really going out there and putting in the time to get it right. And not being a tourist, like you said. You started a band for the right reasons because you liked it. Not because it was cool. None of that stuff. You liked it. Mm-hmm. You loved the music. You fell in love with it, and that was your thing. That's really cool.
And apart from the music, I think that you gotta put in the time to work on everything else that is not music. So when we signed to Universal, actually it was Universal Japan that noticed the record that we, self-produced, self-funded by kids, because we had to work. Everybody in the band was like mostly underage, and we had to work for years to get the money to finance a professional studio for the first time, and have it mixed by big producers in Sweden, have it mastered, and no other bands in this place were actually doing that. So we were kind of trying to figure it out for ourselves. And it worked because we went around Europe and we shopped the record to labels. as ourselves because we didn't have, a management.
Yeah.
So that worked. That worked, but it was like very expensive for us.
Oh yeah.
It was very expensive to travel, to set meetings and kind of, make yourself be heard by these big names because we were nobodies. We still are nobodies in my head, but it's at least we have a little history, and that gets you, it gets easier to get things done for that. But in the very beginning, it was like we were just trying stuff out.
In 2008, you're knocking on, major labels' doors around Europe. That's incredible. It really, like, it showcases, and everything you've said to this point showcases your mental determination, your mental state, and it explains so much to me. I think it answered my question almost. In such an aggressive world of metal and rock music, you guys always have positive, uplifting, happy feeling lyrics. Like, no wonder. You guys are just, hey, we're finding our own thing. We're doing our own thing. We're happy because we're here. I was going to ask how you channel that, but, would you agree that, your whole career is kind of just, I have to stay happy, not have to stay happy, but, have to stay
like
positive and motivated?
It's just who we are. Yeah. We never really fake that, and I feel like that's what people really fall in love to, honestly, because
yes.
the lyrics are the lyrics, the attitude, what we share on social media. We just love doing this, and full stop. If it goes well, it goes well. If it goes bad, it goes bad. But we at least are very sincere to ourselves, and we know we will not be the biggest band in the world, of course.
Right.
We're not trendy. We're not trying to be. We're just trying to put out the best music we can, respecting our identity. And if you were at dinner with me, John, and the guys, you would notice that that's exactly who we are. We were not afraid to show ourselves smiling if we are in a metal band. I don't really care about that. Never did. And I remember back in the day, like in 2010 and 11, we had management that were trying to shape our image. They didn't want us to share different type of photos, or maybe we had some drawings done by a fan like a fan art, and it was like childish for them, so we couldn't share that, but we did it anyway because we felt like, how can you tell us to not do something that we feel good about?
Right.
And that's when the whole mentality changed. So
wow.
Yeah, I just feel like we're just being honest with ourselves before being honest with everybody else. But I don't know.
That's great.
That's what we do. And there are gonna be songs that are not super positive because maybe something happened. Maybe right. We want to talk about a different topic. But the core of the band is just we want to express how grateful and happy we are about being able to still do this thing. Yeah. And we always felt that way. So
the childhood dream and just remaining authentic to who you are.
Absolutely.
I mean, it speaks volumes to how you've maintained, on top of talent, of course. You have a lot of talent in the band, but it speaks volumes to, your persistence across the years and you being where you are right now. And that's an impressive place for many, many young bands.
Absolutely. So let's circle back a little bit into what we were talking about off air. The man himself, Jacob Hansen. How was working with him? I am a fan of his work. I know that all four of us here are. Go ahead.
Seems too easy to say, but it's probably the coolest guy in the world.
I can see him.
It's a professional. Anybody can say anything, any difference. I mean, it's super pro on his job, but he's also a very good and easy guy. Very come si dice Fella umile? Non mi ricordo mai. It's very
Humble.
humble. Yeah. Actually, I mean, for me, is one of the best engineer in the metal scene at all.
Yeah.
It's very easy guy. It's also the guy next door. I mean, and it's so professional. Really, how can I say? Listen a lot, not the music, but what the artists try to communicate and what is our needs. Even if he's Jacob Benson and he can basically whatever he wants. I mean, he could be the boss of the album at the end, but he really cares about what the band wants. And especially for us, we are a small band. That's so important because it's very special. And if I think at the very beginning of our relation, I was not in the band, but Fella told me 1,000 times how it was when he came to Switzerland to teach us how to start a pre-production, how to start to make the record by ourselves. Because at the very beginning, we always record everything by ourselves. Just going to Jacob, other engineer for the mix. So it really teach us on how to start this kind of work, this kind of do-it-yourself recording, and it's so cool. I mean, really share with us a part of his knowledge since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was so incredible to, like I was saying before the show started. Jacob came to my place in 2012 before we even got to record The Gift of Life. So that was the first record that we did together, and we had this small, very sketchy pre-productions and mostly MIDI files. So that's what he was working with. And I still can't believe that we did The Gift of Life starting from that. I mean, we did know that there were very important songs in that album, even from the MIDI files. But we had just changed our singer because that's the first record where Kevin joined the band. So we were just, going blind because we didn't know what was going to happen. We changed the singer, we changed the producer. It was the last record that we could do with Universal, so it was like we gotta give our best here, otherwise it's gonna be the end. And he really knew that. Jacob really, I think, enjoyed being with us in the very beginning because it felt like he was one of us from the start. Like he was a friend, first of all, and then the amount of time and work that he put in the mixing, even when we went up in Denmark and worked with him, it was June. So in Denmark, the sun never sets during the summer. So we worked like 20 to 21 hours a day in the studio because it was never night. So we didn't even notice the day was ending. So we had just 1 week to finish everything, and he never said no to us.
Wow.
It's incredible to think about it. Honestly, it's some of the best memories that I have.
That's amazing. I mean, just from having small interactions with him every once in a while, the occasional, hey, Merry Christmas message and stuff, I can tell he's a super humble guy and not above anything. I remember making a post trying to help out some local friends out here, well, not local, but like just Facebook, on my Facebook feed, like, hey, post your business on here. I'd be happy to share it or whatever.
I remember that.
He's Jacob Hansen. He doesn't have to do that. He posted his. I was like, man, you're A1 person, man. You're an excellent person. So
he's a workaholic. He never stops. And he's incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It felt like it was just the right thing, and we still worked with him many times after that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Question for you, just because I know like you said, he became almost like the extra band member, right? One of the guys. Was he like, I know you guys say that you do your own pre-production and all that stuff. Was he involved in the later steps in some of the writing, or basically just molding what you guys do?
So
Like how
we were
hands-on?
all. You mean in the Gift of Life on or the production after that?
In anything you have ever worked with him?
No.
How
So
hands-on was he?
in the latest stuff, he wasn't involved in songwriting. He was already happy with the pre-production that we gave him, so everything worked because we already worked in that sense. So we already knew how to provide stuff to him, like John said before. But the first time with the Gift of Life, he did change a couple things on two songs, but not much, because he also felt it was already special. And even if some structures are weird sometimes in that record, the energy in it kind of mixed it perfectly. So he really felt like that. I remember when mixing, he already knew what to do, like since the beginning, because he already felt the potential of some of the songs in the pre-production stage. Yeah. Even if the pre-production at the time was like super sketchy, right? I might have something in my old computer, but it was like incredibly different.
Yeah,
right. I'm sure.
And I love that. I love that we can listen to that and see like the progress of everything.
Yeah.
Because like John said, actually, that teaches us like that how to work on pre-production, or even work on songwriting sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and what he needs, especially with vocals, to record how to track vocals to let them mix it at the top. So that was very, very, very useful. And also with drums, we changed sometimes from album to the other album with overheads and stuff. We chat a little bit with him, especially for the last album, maybe to change the way we track cymbals and stuff. And he was always very open, very, very useful to chat with him, and it helps a lot. So I think also for him at the end, it's probably useful because he already knows what he needs to, to be comfortable on the mix. So but it's not easy. I mean, it's very. It's so special for me that someone take the time to talk with the band on this level, especially when you're not a famous band, and especially when you are the other side of Europe, and you know that you will just mix the album and not record, so you are involved just in a certain way, also economically wise, because of course mixing additional albums is not like producing and record an entire album of a big band. It puts anyway so much effort on it, and that's why it's like Fella said, it's a workaholic and is very passionate on what he do. So what he does, sorry, and so that's why it's at the end is what you say. It's a cool guy.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and and I asked about that question because I've seen it from all aspects. You know what I mean? Where like you said, he really listens to you. So like, even if you said if some structures were somewhere like a little weird, but he felt the energy, he's like, no, let's keep it. Let's go. Let's do that. That's cool. You know what I mean? That's awesome. That's a sign of somebody who like really like listens to the artist. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, I'm big bad producer, I can do this. No. What does Dreamshade want? So that's cool stuff.
I feel like he just knows that every time a record that he worked on was successful was because the artist brought something that nobody else could ever think about. Yeah.
Yep.
And what makes, again, the being unique, you have your own unique way to express yourself. Nobody can take that away from you. So you cannot take it away from a record because you feel like it doesn't really make sense in my head. But if it makes everything special, you gotta keep that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice.
I mean, Jacob sounds amazing for you guys. And so one thing, obviously the core of this podcast and the show that we reached out to you about is to provide us with song influences, musical influences that have impacted you somewhere along your career. The first song you guys had on your list was "Too Much of Heaven" by Eiffel 65, and Javi and I we looked at each other and said, "Wait a second, I do know this artist. I didn't realize that was them." So
that was my first record, the first record I've ever bought, and it was 1999. Yes, Europop. I was 9 years old, so it was very popular at the time, so you could get it anywhere. But I fell in love with it because it was so melodic. Like every track has a piano riff or a synth riff that is memorable. And at that time, dance music, techno music, the time wasn't so melodic. I felt like, okay, this is something that I will remember forever, and so it was. And those kind of, piano riffs, if you listen to our first productions, it's there. Absolutely.
Wow.
In every song, there is like, there are like piano patterns and melodies, and there is even a song in the first record that is called Reviving Me, on What Silent Sighs, our first full-length record.
Right.
And there is a guitar riff that really reminds of a synth riff from the song Dubbing Life from that record. If you want to listen to that, you'll find out.
I will, yeah.
That was how much of an influence was for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can
Melodies
just get
and
influences
harmony.
from. Yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes you can get influences from anywhere, just anywhere. That's amazing.
Well, but that's because me and the other guitar player that joined the band in the very beginning, his name is Rocco. We were both fans of the same kind of music in every genre. So we were really drawn to the melodies before anything else. We didn't feel like, okay, I want to listen to metal because it's aggressive. I listen to metal because there are bands that do great melodies. That's what I was looking for, and I still am looking for that, honestly.
That's great.
So it all started from that era, 1999, Europop, Eiffel 65. Awesome.
Wow.
That's funny. That's funny you say that, Fella, because I am a huge melody guy as well. I go for melody before anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what hits. For me, that's what hits. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's still like this today.
Yeah, I agree.
If there isn't if a song doesn't have a strong melody, I won't remember that.
Exactly. I want people to remember what you did,
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Makes sense. That makes sense with your choruses. That makes sense with the hooks in your song.
It does. It does.
Very catchy stuff.
And the more we discuss here, the more, as I listened to those three, I said, at first glance, not being a immensely avid fan, I should say, of these artists, or not, they're not on necessarily a regular rotation, I should say. I've definitely heard them, appreciate them. I looked and said, and then I listened and I said, oh, yes, like I get it, like I see it in the music. The second track that you gave us was Downfall by Children of Bodom, which incredible band, incredible track. Tell us about that.
So the Dreamshade started in 2006, and it started just because of one moment, and a single moment, and it was the New Year's Eve of 2005, 2006. Children of Bodom was playing 2 shows in a row in Switzerland, and it was both sold out, and I went to the one on New Year's Eve with the other guitar player that started the band with me. We didn't even think about having a band before that, a metal band at least, because we had a pop punk band before when we were in middle school. But that moment in Children of Autumn were still like super young, like 25 years old or something like that. And they crushed it, man. It was like, that was my favorite song at the time. And when they played it last on that night, and it was New Year's Eve and it was midnight, I will never forget that moment. And that's the whole reason Dreamshade started, because we were such a, bottom worship type of band in the early days. Wow. And it's just for that moment, dude, honestly.
It was it was a sold out show, and Dreamshade may never be here if he didn't get tickets.
Absolutely. And I was 15, the other guy was 16, so we were just kids. It was like my first heavy metal concert ever.
Yes.
I didn't see any other artists before that. So I was really impressed because they were only like 10 years older than me. I was like, okay, this can actually be done. It's not impossible. And it's a band from Finland that has like the same amount of people as Switzerland.
Right.
So it felt real. It felt something that you could get to get your hands on.
Yeah.
So that's how we felt, at least.
Wow, it was achievable, really.
Yes, absolutely. And we really love that, they kept their identity, they kept their culture in the band, because they were always doing videos in their own language, never translating anything. It felt like we could totally relate to them musically, and like even as a situation where they started. Mm-hmm. Of course, Finland has way more metal bands than Switzerland does, but
couple.
It's still like it was like they were so special that could not, be unnoticed by people.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I went through a phase where I was really into guitar, and I discovered Alexi, like many of us did. And oh my god, I was just bombs going off in my head, man.
Yes.
Learned to play some of the stuff. Yeah, it was awesome, man.
Yeah, I was watching, COB videos every day for years. I was a total fan. I just wanted to, skip school and go and watch the downloaded version of their music videos, because at the time we didn't have any type of broadcast for metal, so we couldn't see that on the television, so we had to illegally download everything.
I mean, everyone had a LimeWire day, right?
LimeWire
Absolutely,
days,
absolutely. We all did that, and it was, and thanks to that, we are here today.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually incredible. I would not have known that is the reason Dreamshade exists, or that you were that drawn by that band, unless we had this conversation.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
If you listen to our first EP, it's pretty clear that it's a very
influence. Yeah.
Oh my.
And then
your third song by Soilwork, Distance by Soilwork. Soilwork's phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if you can go wrong. They're just so good at what they do.
I mean, that record that song is on is my favorite record from Soilwork.
Exactly. That's my favorite song of my favorite record from Soilwork, and it was the first time that I felt like, okay, there's something different going on with vocals on this band, because they still sound metal, but when they bring in the pop vibe, it's so well done and it's so catchy that you cannot say anything about it, even if you're a metalhead. So that was the biggest influence at the time for changing the vocals a little bit, and the drumming as well, because the style of the drumming was a step forward again. And I felt like, okay, we can do it proggy if we want, but first of all, it has to be stylish. Yep. So if we want to bring in those elements, we already have the melody, we already have the riffs. We can do something that is groovier, and when we want to sing, we can do something that is memorable and stylish.
Yeah.
So I guess that song and that record really made us understand that, okay, somebody can do this, and they don't sound like a young metal band trying to sing and trying to have a pop vibe. They know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. If
that made
there's
a
any
big difference for me.
If there's any kind of role model for you guys in terms of not leaving that identity, staying authentic, Soil Work
Not
is.
what was it right there?
Yeah.
I must be honest, like all these three artists that I gave you, they have a very strong identity.
Yes.
You're gonna remember this, like, for these bands and these artists for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because of their style before anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when people think of, again, genres or classifications of however they want to categorize, these are top names that people pull out. And you can say almost in casual everyday conversation, oh yeah, Soil Work did this. People know that name, you know. It's almost it's an identity. It absolutely is.
I have to say, one thing I've loved overall about our conversation today is that it's a subject that we don't touch on too often, which is keeping your identity as a band or as an artist and expressing yourself through music in the way that you want to express yourself without basically, you know, I don't want to say the word selling out, but without
compromise.
Trying to there you go. That's a great word. Nice.
That's what you're looking for.
Without having to compromise what you sound like, or, you know, make it not something you want to do just because you want to, you know, think you might have a chance at, you know, skyrocketing through charts or whatever. That's a really cool thing. And you know, again, I will say this once more. I think that the bands that have their own style last longer. And personally, for me, I prefer those bands.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you grow older, you feel like you're drawn to that way more than, you know, more than production, more than being trendy, more than being popular. There are so many artists that are not popular, and they're very, very good. And I'm not talking about just, you know, the underground metal scene. I'm talking about every genre, about you know, every type of production, every language even. And there are people in really remote place that can do awesome music. You just gotta discover that. And if you love it, you love it. You don't have to justify yourself to other people for that.
That's right. Yeah, I mean that's half the battle. And on that note, I do want to kind of ask, because young bands, upcoming bands, they all look and say, "Oh, one day I want to be signed." You know, that's always kind of a dream, and you guys have achieved that, and now, you know, you're in a different format. But you know, you've been with Spine Farm and Universal
three times over
in Artery Recordings. You know, shout out. Those are big. Those are massive. Is there any advice from those experiences that you might be able to share with bands? Not, you know, you don't have to dive into like, well, we should have read the contract a little better or something like that. But, you know, is there any, when you, as, you know, maintaining your identity, going into a deal like that, or an offer, or even, you know, courting those ideas, is there anything you can share?
Sounds obvious. We already talked about it, but compromise and change identity are two things that I'm pretty sure everybody's get to be avoid. Or I think that nowadays it's something hard to say. Maybe I don't express myself in English too well, but I'm not really sure that signs a deal is necessarily the best way. First of all, to do music, because the two things are not related at all. And secondly, it depends. I mean, I listen a lot of bands that are not so famous. They are not under deals, but their music at the end came to Switzerland. It's on.
Right.
It's everywhere. It's nowadays. It's easier to not to find, but to get access to music in general all over the world, especially in subgenre, in niches. We have many more possibilities compared to 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
at the end, my personal experience with Dreamshade and also with other music and artists is that more than deals, people are important. So not necessarily the label, but the people that running the label or you are in contact with, in touch with. So your manager, the friends that work for the label, the journalist, maybe.
Yeah.
If you invest your time, your passion, and your strength on personal relations, it's probably better. That's maybe the thing that I remember sometimes to myself. The best experience I had in the music, also in the music business, were with people, not with deals.
Right.
So yeah, and what I'm very proud about and I'm very happy about with Dreamshade nowadays is because we really are a little family. I mean, our photographer is our friends. Our video maker is one of our best friends. It's with us since we were teenagers. Our personal manager is a very good friend of us. So our audio engineer, it's a brother. So that's what at the end of the day matters. I'm sure about that.
Yeah. The network. I have said it. I know I've said it before talking to people and just bands who I know and interact with, obviously with the blog. It's all about who you know. It's not anything to jump up status and say, oh, I know so and so, big shot. It's how good of a relationship do you have with that person? You don't have to be buddy with someone all the time, but at least be nice. Simply put, network, be nice. See, build that friendship because that can carry you literally across the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many things to say about this. We did live through two different eras of signing deals.
Yes.
The first one was with a major label in a time where albums could be sold and the streaming era was not here yet. So we signed just before Spotify even existed, and it was a very different time because we used to spend a lot to produce music and to shop the record because there was no other choice to get noticed outside of our little, garden here.
Yeah.
So that was our only possibility. It did help a lot. It gave us the money to produce a second record that eventually ended up being one of the most successful for us. So we have to be thankful to the people that actually gambled and just trusted us without any type of history that we had at the time. But at the same time, streaming is what really paid, the recoupable debt that we had for spending so much on everything, on touring, on producing the records, on distribution, on music videos, on photos, on promotion. That's something that still costs a lot, and it used to cost way more back in the day. So the second time that we had another record label, it was Sony and Arte Recordings. It was a very different time. It was already 5 years into the streaming world, so everything was different. People really believed in our project because they were fans of it, first of all.
Right.
Now it's even further down the line. The world has changed so much, and the only thing that really matters to us is not the status of a record label. It's not the distribution or how they handle promotion. We only live on our audience. And that's what we really, honestly, only care about. Because we know we can do the music that we love. We can release whenever we want. And the thing is, not being tied to a contract ended up making us produce so much more often than before. We release more records. I mean, in a smaller amount of time, more songs in a smaller amount of time than we've ever done before in our career, because we're just more active in the studio.
Right.
We feel free to release whatever we want. If we write a song that is contemporary in this moment, we produce it now and we release it tomorrow, or 3 months from now. We don't have to wait for a promotional schedule or distribution of physical copies that took so much time out of the working place, because we were waiting, and you're just sit there and waiting that your music is out, but for the band it's already old. For the audience it's going to be new, maybe it's not relevant at the moment that it's out.
Yeah.
So I feel like it teaches you a lot being signed, especially in different eras. And we are grateful for that, because many other bands that we know never had that type of chance.
Right.
Still, we feel like the real core, not of the business, but of making this machine work, is the audience.
Yes. And
the audience needs to be a healthy audience. And if you build even a small audience of 1,000 people that really love the band, really love your project, you can survive of that. Maybe you're not going to be rich. We don't care about that. We just want to, do whatever we really like, and be proud of it. And we're just grateful to keep doing it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned some key things there that tie in, spanning different eras, in terms of signing, but then you focused in on what does matter. It's the people, it's the community around you. So when you, obviously starting out, you were said, hey, we want to do this for us. This is our music. Maybe a couple people will hear it if it never makes it. You at one point you probably said, if this never goes beyond the country borders or even the town border, who cares? It's what we want to do. But once you started gaining momentum and you started building a community, is there anything potentially that holds true from day one to now in terms of fostering a community?
Wow. I'm sure, for the first years, up until 2014 or 13, we didn't really know how big of an audience we had. We couldn't, because we had no data.
Right.
And living on no data in the internet era, it's just impossible, because you always feel like you're just talking to yourself. You keep putting all of this effort and time and sacrifice everything else in your life to be able to do this thing that you love so much, so dearly. It feels like you have no feedback, no reward, nothing. And for many years it felt like this, until The Gift of Life was out, and we realized that actually there was an audience before that. We doubled that audience with the record, and then we doubled with the next. And you could see that, and it's not just because of the numbers, because that's not what we care about. It's because of the feeling that the people are really listening to what you say, to what you write, and it's part of their journey too, and you're just going in the same direction together. And it never felt like that before, until 2013 and 14. And we started to listen to our fans so much that the first tours that we ever did internationally, especially in other continents, it's just because some people that were fans helped us out to set up.
Oh, wow.
So
wow,
that happened many times. It still happens today. Fans help us out with connections to set up, concerts, or many other things. That's the community you're talking about. You want to build that in order to be successful, at least in a restricted, area. And it's not because of the business. It's because they love your thing as much as you do. And you're not going to find many, people that work for bigger agencies or labels that are loving your stuff so dearly as you are. Because if you don't profit, they don't love it anymore. So that's something very healthy for us.
That's
The people that actually listen.
Yeah.
That's very eye-opening. That's a very eye-opening thing to say, and I could not agree more. Especially that last part about like if it's not making profit, they don't love it anymore. It's true. It's crazy that that's true. And
it is what it is. I understand that. I understand from a professional point of view. I totally get that. Why should you place your bet on every other band that comes out? Why would you do that? I understand that. But if you have a band that really believes that they are as great as they think they are, and all 5 of them are giving their life to that, that's not even something that you're going to find every day as a record label. So hardworking people are rare, especially if they are artists, especially if they are executives. And because of the thing that I said before, you don't have an instant reward. You don't have a feedback right away to tell you, okay, you're successful overnight.
Yeah.
That is the exception, not the rule.
Wow. Javi, I think I'm going to let Fella do the podcast from now on, because this is this is exactly. I mean, I feel like I don't need to ask anything else, because that is the information that if any band at any level needs to hear, it's that. You're nothing without your community.
Yeah.
And it's just
absolutely. If people don't listen to you, you are not an artist.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just an artist to yourself. But of course you have to be, even if you have a very small audience, but they're dedicated fans, is because they really love that. There is something in those songs that speaks to them.
Right. Yeah. It is always interesting, actually a relevant topic now, Spencer from Under Oath did his side project when they dissolved in 2013 called Sleepwave. And it's actually coming up on a decade of that album. And I actually just tweeted today, I was like, hey, do you think there's a 10-year tour of that album? But it's such a micro scale of fans that probably even remember that album at this point. Granted, he's who he is. But
guess what? I am one of those fans. I love that record.
It was so good.
Me too.
Yeah. We are with our people.
Yes. We are at least 4.
Yes.
There we go.
Spencer, I'm tagging
joking,
you.
Of course, I'm joking.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. It's one of those things. That's exactly that. If you have some diehard somewhere, someone's screaming to come to Brazil and play that show. There's always that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, but that's what happened. The first time we ever went to South Africa, it was a YouTube comment. The guy just happened to be a local promoter there, so he was like, you should really do this, because here people fucking love you. And he contacted me on Facebook, and we set it up right away, and we did that. It was like a sold-out tour.
Wow.
Like that, and it was 2013 when we started messaging, and we did the tour in 2014. Guess what? We ended up doing it again in 2019.
Wow.
And it's something that you could never expect, because everybody could write, hey, come play to, my garage.
Right.
Come play in my backyard. Come play to my wedding. We got a lot of those. And for a moment, we even thought we could do that in the UK.
Right.
So you might never know. Like it's really weird. But the internet is a weird place, and it's
Very weird place.
sometimes in that noise, some of those are opportunities. Most of the times they're not.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Wow. And obviously gradually that built up, and you guys got to go on tour with like acts like Don Broco even. You know, like you're just growing the community, then you get taken out by a bigger band who sees potential in you and says, "Hey, you have the skills, let's go."
That was incredible, because Don Broco is one of my favorite bands of the modern, area, and they are the best guys ever, dude. Honestly, it was a very, very good tour.
That's amazing.
I will never forget that. Really, really awesome.
I love that band.
Yes, of course.
Their music
They're
is
the catchiest.
crazy.
They're the catchiest. And you know what? The thing is that they're so much heavier live. Like the live energy is fucking through the roof. It's incredible.
I bet.
Even the softest songs are like super hard.
It's got to be a party. There's no other word for it.
And again, like they have a very incredible community, and they just love music. So it was so awesome to play before them, because their community was there for the music. They discovered new bands that were playing before them. So we gained so many fans on that tour, honestly, because of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
So we're very, very, very thankful. I couldn't ever imagine that, because we were the only metal band on the tour, so it was kind of weird, but yeah.
Whatever works, right?
I mean, good music is good music, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Good, like, people that like good music will recognize good music in any genre, I think, at least.
It's the melody, bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
Bringing it
is.
full circle. Let's go.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, oh my gosh. This is.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of knowledge, like just knowledge things that I can't wait for people to hear this one. This one touched on something we haven't talked about too much. I mean, we talk about it behind closed doors, music, identity, that kind of stuff, but this is now coming from other artists saying the same thing. So this is good. This is very good.
Yeah. And I guess, we're getting a little late, obviously, for you guys. And we're just to put a bow on all this, is there, this has been a phenomenal time. I can't say that enough, but is there anything else you guys can share about what Dreamshade's plans are? I know there are festivals listed on your website coming up this year. So that's mainly in Europe area, nothing necessarily too far outside. Is there anything else you want to push, share, can tell us?
Done?
No, actually, yeah. There's a couple of more festivals that will came out, but unfortunately not in the US for this moment. So, coming to US, it's a plan since a long time. Yeah, because of the COVID at the end, we cannot because we had a tour planned in US. Then the COVID came and
Excuse me while I get off the call and go cry.
Yeah, that's true. We are writing a lot, but we don't have a plan to release something in a specific date at the moment. So we are working on many stuff and.
There's things cooking.
Fella, what we can, it's too early to say the next project actually. So we just have a couple of secrets that we have to keep. So no, I don't know.
Fair enough.
I love it.
Because we are working on something very special we cannot say. So it makes no sense.
All right. Well, hey,
this discussion.
look, that's good enough.
Okay, so
and go ahead.
Here's what we can say. So we're gonna announce a couple festivals more it's going to be in Europe. So at least we can play to bigger audiences in our continent, because we don't do that so often. So
Right.
it's going to be a great summer for that. We do have projects of releasing stuff soon.
Okay.
But I guess the most important thing is that we are working on music, and it is a lot of music, so it's gonna take some time to make it, actually make it work, because
Yep.
we don't know where to go for this moment, because we have so many different stuff, and I'm talking for myself, but it's very hard to. There is so much noise in this computer that I have to kind of swim through it and then figure out what we want as a band. But there is no plan for a record right now. But there's never a plan for a record. It just happens. So
Yeah, right.
This happens.
who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Wait, hey, look, fans who are tuning into this and new fans who have listened through this and hear that, I think we can all say that that's exciting to hear that you guys are still moving, you're pushing, and staying true to Dreamshade. So,
Absolutely.
I always have to emphasize that this is the best. Again, talking about identity through this has been the best dose of information anyone listening needs.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
So
This has been a very knowledge bomb driven episode. So
yeah. Is there
very good.
Is there any specific place, a platform better than others where fans should check you out? We're going to have all the links in the descriptions and everything so people can find you, but is there any platform, say, Instagram or something, where you interact the most?
I guess Instagram is very good because of the DMs. DMs is something that we use more than anything else. We don't post so much. We do stories when we go around for shows, or we are in the studios working on something, but we're not a super active, social media band, but we do tend to respond to, or at least try to respond to everybody. And the thing is that Instagram allows people to share, personal stuff through DMs that couldn't be put in a comment under a post.
Yeah.
And that's something that really keeps our community very strong, because the fans can share like a lot of personal stories. They say why they are related to some of the songs, and it's really interesting also for us, because it really shows that they don't just know the music because they've been showed one or two videos on the internet, and they really know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's very important for us. So I guess Instagram is a great platform.
Okay. All right. It brings the personal into that community-driven relationship, and you guys are there to talk on the other end. You're not just getting, say your manager's not just like, oh, here's a canned response. It's you guys. That's cool.
We do handle all of the social media. We have emails. We handle all of the distribution for the music, all of the streaming services.
Yeah.
The merch, we do ship the merch. We send you everything. If you order from our web store, we do the band does everything, honestly. So it's just the five of us, some help from the friends, but it's like that.
That's awesome.
So that's why sometimes we can be slower than other bands, but we try to handle everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But
So
we are
it's almost
friendly.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
And honest.
Yes, you are.
Friendly and honest. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Of course.
Well, thank you guys so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. Excited for everyone to hear this. Thank you for your time. We'd love to have you on again at some point. So,
For sure.
and until next time, everyone, all the listeners, tune in next time for another episode of Dear Untitled Radio Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Absolutely.
Dear Untitled, here for the artists supporting the creatives.